Okay, so we have a 2312 that opens on the button. Looks like his steal percentage on the button is 50. 2 out of 4 so far. Oh, I see here why this went post flop. I have a 63-2 to my left, and sometimes I 3-bet here, but with this guy to my left, I probably just called to let him in with all sorts of dominated hands with my king jack, but he didn't. And so the board comes down, queen 6-9, obviously a very drawy board. He doesn't c-bet. For the most part, when guys don't c-bet, I expect them to have something they're semi-proud of. A lot of guys with, like, 4 or 5 suited of spades or something make a c-bet here, just to try to end the hand. A lot of times when guys check, they're looking to control the pot, kind of going with that mantra of, big hands for big pots. The drawy board doesn't want to get check raised, all that kind of stuff. So the turn comes a 5. I go ahead and bet right into him. I bet large, and I know my plan here, I'm sure, was to bet large because I plan on getting called here really often. Once he checks back the flop, as I said, I think he has a marginal hand, and people are rarely going to fold. Say, like if he had 9-10 suited, or pocket eights or pocket tens, and just wanted to control the pot. Once he checks back the flop and an innocuous card like the 5 of clubs come down, he's just rarely going to fold. So really, I like to bet large here because I'm planning on taking the pot on the river, and I want to take a larger pot. Turn card is perfect. Actually, I can't really think of a card where I wouldn't bet here. Maybe a 10, or a jack, maybe an 8, I guess. Some of those. You want to watch out for, like, the type of cards that would give him 2 pair. So like 8, 9, 9, 10, queen 10. Maybe queen jack if he would check that back. Might be more likely to check back top pair. But so stay away from those, like, closer cards that kind of go in with the 9, 10 suited stuff. And here again, I just shoved. I don't think there's any way this guy has a big hand. I think my shove is going to get him to fold 100% of the time, and I think I'm behind. So every time. Anyway, so that one works too. Here we raise in the small blind. This guy folds to a steal, 75% or so, to the big blind, and this guy ends up calling. I think a good flop to c-bet, and I would like to see a small one, yeah, and I do. For the most part here, I think I'm going to get called probably well over 50% of the time. Given my bet size, he only has to fold about 35% of the time. And I think there's so many, like, little pocket pairs in there, little suited connector stuff, that this is actually going to be successful frequently enough. I would say probably in the neighborhood of 40% of the time or so. So I think I have a plus EV c-bet given my sizing. He goes ahead and calls. Really, I'm done with the hand at this point. I check. Now he checks it back, and when he checks it back, given the nature of that flop, I think his hand is going to be really marginal. He can have hands like king jack, and maybe even an open and a straight draw with a pair. Like maybe even like queen 10 or jack 10, or who knows what he might have. But he doesn't bet really to just take the pot, so it doesn't seem like he has a weak hand and he's floating. A flush draw might semi-bluff there. So for the most part, I think he has some marginal hand. He wants to get it to showdown. He wants to do it cheaply. And the response, once the 3, the 3 comes down, it's just a perfect card. I would be cautious with clubs, because given the high board, a lot of times a guy with 5-6 suited will just call there because his equity. I'm talking about on the flop. Say he has 5-6 suited of clubs. His steal equity is likely to be rather low given that high flop, depending on how he feels about my range. So once the 3 hearts come down, it's perfect. I'd be careful with aces and queens and nines and all those kinds of cards. But the 3 is perfect. I imagine I probably would want to bet, say, $70 or something. Oh, look at that. Yeah, $70. I think that does the job really well. So he goes ahead and folds. All right, so we have a pretty aggressive stealer. Looks like he opens on the button 56% of the time. And I call. I imagine with a guy this aggressive, he only c-bets 57%, so it's not a lot, but who knows what I was planning to do. I was probably a raise like this, a flop like that, I'm probably going to check raise a fair amount. I check, he checks it back. The seven of diamonds comes. Really, any diamond. There's not a lot of times players do not. Um, uh, they'll see bet a flush draw here almost all the time here in position. So again, it's difficult to say what he has when he checks back. Some guys won't see bet here with overs, and they also may not see bet with say like pocket fours through pocket sevens or whatever. Now I'll go ahead and check. I think probably I don't really know what I had in mind with my check honestly. But I check and then he bets on the seven of diamonds. I think that improves a really small portion of his range. I think he's going to have he could obviously have an ace of diamonds, king of diamonds type of thing, pick up a flush draw. Maybe now he's semi bluffing. But given the fact that I haven't given him any action at all, he really has no idea if I have any diamonds or anything like that. And now when he bets on the turn, I think his hand, given the nature of the board, and I can really sell a flush here pretty well. And so I go ahead and make a raise, and there's a certain percentage of the time he's going to call, obviously with a big diamond or something. And then the Jack of Hearts comes off. Really, again, a great card to go ahead and fire. At any diamond, I'd probably stay away from. The board paired, I'd probably, I don't know. I imagine I would stay away from that too against someone who's probably fairly good at hand reading. Just given the fact that it's probably unlikely that I check raise a set on the turn. So we have a decent sized pot here. $83. I mean, I probably just shoved, and I did. I need him to fold, say, 67% of the time, and I think that's going to work really often here. I don't think he's proud of his hand at all, and so that works as well too. All right, so that's those are 5 hands I checked just to go over some different thoughts that I have as I'm pulling this move off. There are plenty of things to consider when you're making this move. If you get snapped at some point. You want to take a note on the guy, and you just purchased a customer there, and you can start shoving, overbetting with your value hands, and stay away from your bluffs for a while if you want against a player like that. As I said, sometimes against some players you'll have to take in the nature of the board and what you would be likely to do, as I had to do against this good player. But one of my favorite sayings that I've come up with is that when a nit gives you his story, you don't need one. So because sometimes players say, well, what am I representing? And the deal is when a nit tells you he has a marginal hand, they're very rarely willing to back up their read with money. They may look at your bet and go, wow, what does he have here? I just don't know what he has. But they're not willing to toss in the rest of their money because they don't believe you and they think they're good X percentage of the time or whatever. So you really don't have to worry about selling a story against a net. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. There's an article, as I said, in the forum on it. I'm happy to answer your questions.